As the island of Kestrel disappeared from view, Kaelin blinked away threatening tears and turned from the rail. With favorable winds, it would be late afternoon before they reached their destination, and he'd best take his packs to his cabin. A series of staccatos, all of a single pitch, came from above, and the apprentice glanced up. High above the mast of the ship, a large kestrel flew. Kaelin watched it with interest, certain he had seen this same bird several times in the vicinity of his master's home. He liked to think it was the same kestrel he had seen in the woods of Vale, looking down on him from the branch of a twisted oak. He had heard the beautiful wild music coming from the bird, the inherent music of the creature that no one else could hear but him. Later he had played a variation of it, unaware that not far off a master sat motionless at a small campfire, listening and experiencing the same glorious freedom of flight that he was. The kestrel's song had brought his master to him, and Kaelin longed to take up his flute and play it once again, to soar effortlessly into the sky and fly back to the master he had not wished to leave. The kestrel sent a barrage of scolding staccatos down upon the ship, and flew back toward Kiet. Kaelin watched him enviously, then was surprised when the bird suddenly changed direction and flew back to the ship. Once again a spate of notes sounded above, and again the bird flew back to Kiet. When the ship ignored the clear avian imperative to return to the port it had just left, the kestrel returned and circled the ship. Wondering at the bird's unusual behavior, Kaelin watched it for a moment before reluctantly turning away. He had promised his master not to listen to the song of any living thing until he came of age. The kestrel issued a final outburst, as though strongly disapproving of this, then flew off in the direction they were headed, toward Eire. Kaelin went below deck and found his quarters small but comfortable. He listened for a moment to sounds of the ocean waves as the ship sliced a path through them, then reached for his harp. Perhaps he couldn't play the song of the kestrel, but there were other ways to release his melancholy. Nor was he worried about sweeping the sailors above into his music, leaving the ship unmanned. When his master had told him that he was the first person to be born gifted in over 200 cycles, and his music had the power to transport his listeners into his own experience of it, the apprentice had been hesitant to play in anyone's hearing. Though his inhibited gift had been freed, and he now understood that his music had not caused anyone harm, Kaelin had still worried it could inadvertently do so, especially if they happened to be doing something that demanded their full attention. But then, just last season, he had unexpectedly discovered a way to block others from that pull. He had written a short composition for pipes, musically describing the darkness of night on the lowest pipes, then gradually rising higher to experience the dawn of a new day. When he played it for his master, Burgid was astonished, telling him that, for the first time, Kaelin's music had not pulled his own senses into it. He suggested that Kaelin play the same opening of darkness, then segue into one of his other compositions. When Kaelin did so, the master remained unaffected. "Do it again," Burgid said, "but this time, don't play the darkness, just imagine it filling your mind and play." Kaelin did so, and his master nodded in satisfaction. "I think you've just found a way to keep others from being pulled into your music. Simply cloak your mind in darkness before you play." Now, in his cabin below deck, Kaelin closed his eyes, letting darkness fall over his mind like a barrier. Then he allowed the roll of the ship and the sound of the sea to become the theme from which he skillfully wove his music. The crew and other passengers paused, listening. The rhythmic swells of the sea sprang to life with the vivid imagery of the harpist. Though the music did not pull their senses into the experience, none of them ever forgot that voyage to Eire or the music of the young apprentice who sailed with them. Always they would hear the faint whisper of Kaelin's music through the sounds of the sea.